Very quickly, the Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership was founded in 1993 to identify, educate, train, and inspire emerging leaders from throughout Virginia. We run a series of leadership programs and training programs for high school students, college students, and professionals. And we are all about trust and civility and respect in politics. We bring together we bring together people from both sides of the aisle to sit together and talk about some issues that they really disagree on, with one goal, that they learn how to disagree without demonizing one another, just because they happen to disagree about politics. Big deal. We are all Virginians, we are all Americans, and we all dearly love this country. So this event is titled From the Left and the Right, a conversation from the left and the right. Without further ado, it's a great honor to introduce the Executive Director of the Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership at the University of Virginia, former political writer for the Charlottesville Daily Progress, Bob Gibson.
Thank you, Coy Barefoot. Coy is our Director of Alumni Relations and Director of Communications at Sorensen. Welcome this afternoon to what I'm sure will be a great panel. I'm a lapsed journalist and currently Executive Director. I'd like to thank the Virginia Foundation for the Humanities and the Sorensen Institute for co-sponsoring today's event, along with, as Coy mentioned, the Barton Mallow, the Bridge Limited, Davidson and Kitzman PLC, and Charlottesville Press. Our guest this afternoon, two authors who are well known around the country. Richard Brookhiser. Brookhiser is a journalist, a biographer, and a historian, and senior editor of the National Review. He began writing for the National Review in 1970, when he was 15. He went to Yale, and then became active in the Yale Political Union, before going to work full-time for Bill Buckley in 1977. He later also wrote speeches for Vice President George H.W. Bush. To his right, stage left, his most recent book, which I must mention, because we had book signing afterwards, is Right Time, Right Place, Coming of Age with William F. Buckley, Jr., which is a very good read. Next to him, Hendrik Hertzberg, who began his writing career at the Harvard Crimson. He's been a senior editor of The New Yorker and has also worked as editor of The New Republican. Rick's book, Obamanos, The Birth of a New Political Era, is also going to be on sale and ready for signing after, we'll have a book signing after this afternoon's presentations. He was Jimmy Carter's chief speechwriter, and last year, Forbes magazine named Rick one of the 25 most influential liberals in the U.S. media, number 17. Rick have agreed to get ready to questions, which will come from the audience in a moment. The way we'll do that, Coy Barefoot and Colleen Smith from Sorensen also will be in each of the two aisles, and each will have a microphone for someone to walk up and ask a question, and we'll go aisle to aisle, starting over here after I ask the first couple of questions and the authors introduce what we're talking about. I would like to start with something foundational, something getting back into the beginning of our nation's history. Both of our authors have studied and written about the nation's founders. Richard Brookhiser has even written a book titled, What Would the Founders Do? And that's sort of my first question. Since both of you have thought about this, it's fair and a good starting point to ask, what would our nation's founders do if they had it to do all over again under today's conditions? And would, for example, today's partisan gridlock alarm them and or please them?
Well, partisanship would be surprising to them. Political parties are not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. Some of the founders wrote about parties. James Madison called them factions, but he wrote about them with distaste. He thought they were inevitable, but he didn't like them, so he writes about them like a lab technician who's handling germs. And yet, these same men set up the first two-party system this country ever had. It was Republicans who were today's Democrats. That's the first name of the party, Jefferson's party, Madison's party, and the Federalists. And, one thing I think they would say about our partisanship today is it's better than ours was. It's less frantic, it's less crazy, it's less rancorous, it's less bitter. And the obvious way to prove that is no one is being killed. There were one signer of the Declaration was killed in a duel, and two signers of the Constitution were killed in duels. And people actually did, when worse came to worse, they went out and shot and occasionally killed each other. There were cases on the floor of the house. Well, that's right. There was a famous struggle in the 1790s on the House. Two representatives, one guy insulted the other one, and he raised his cane, and the man attacked ribs and fire tongs. It was a fireplace in the House to defend himself, and they were rolling around on the floor. And then, later on, Charles Sumner was beaten quite badly with a cane in the 1850s. But in the founding generation, a lot of wild and woolly stuff went down. And when you're moaning and groaning about what you see on television, you really should remember that it has been worse. And one of the times it was worse was with these men who I think rightly think of as great.